Hello everyone and welcome to Wolford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast. Today we're paying tribute to June Brown, who had sadly died today, who played Dot Cotton in EastEnders from 1985. Lots and lots of memories and thoughts to obviously her family, but we just want to make this show just our memories of her as Dot Cotton, because obviously this is an EastEnders podcast, and talk about some of our favourite moments. And some bits and pieces we've also learnt about June Brown along the way. So, obviously I can't do this on my own. I have to do this with my bestest chum, and that is Rob. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Hi, Alex. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm fine. I mean, I this is such sad news to find out today.
I know.
Didn't wake up to the news, obviously, because it came in about midday today in the UK. And I found out, I don't know how you found out, but I found out actually listening to the radio. It just popped up, and it was really, I literally shouted out in the office, "Oh my God, June Brown's died!" Yeah. Got a few strange looks, but it really took me aback, and my instant gut reaction was, June Brown can't come back to the soap now. I'm so sad that they can't have one last scene with Dot Cotton anymore. The one recurring thing I've said on numerous occasions, I just hope that June Brown can come back and just reprise her role as Dot Cotton one last time. Sadly, she cannot. And perhaps we'll talk about a little bit later what they may do on the show to commemorate the character of Dot Cotton. But how did you find out, Rob, and how did you feel? What was the reaction for you when you discovered about the news today?
Well, unlike you, I do work night shifts, so I did wake up to wake up to the news. That's not a nice thing to see on the first time you kind of bleary-eyed look on your phone. It's not great. But what a sad day for EastEnders fans everywhere. You know, even if you haven't watched EastEnders for years, or even if you've only just started watching it, everyone knows Dot. You know, she's one of the most iconic British TV characters ever. You know, it's anyone, even if you don't watch EastEnders, everyone knows who Dot Cotton is. You know, she's been parodied, adored, much sent up, but most loved by pretty much everybody. It's amazing to think that June didn't come into the show until she was, I think, 58. I think that's what that was the age she came in, or around that time. Of course, she'd already had a long career before EastEnders, but the type of show that EastEnders is one of those where you become instantly recognised, remembered for that role. And she stayed with it on and off for about close to well over 30 years. Gave us some incredible moments. Was probably one of the only characters that was still allowed to smoke on set and smoke on TV. Who's a good character through
till her dying day,
because obviously, because obviously these days, if you're a character on a soap, only the bad guys are allowed to smoke because smoking's a bad thing to do. But not old Dot. She kept puffing away on those cigarettes right till the end. Bless her. I mean, what were your favourite Dot moments? You know, there's a long history of Dot on the soap, obviously. But do you have any kind of Dot highlights?
I mean, I certainly do. The character of Dot for me worked so well when she was just interfering with everyone, but it was done in such a charming way. Like, you just loved the way that Dot would kind of like, in a recent episode where a classic episode where Mark went to hospital, she was like, "Oh, I know the family," and jumped into the hospital, the ambulance before anyone had a chance to say no to her. You know, she did it with love. But also she wants to know. She needs to get herself into the story and into finding out the gossip. On our show, we use one of her lines, "I ain't one to gossip," because she doesn't realise the kind of like what she does. She kind of like deliberately kind of listen in for news. Her neck is always slightly arched towards someone's conversation, so she can find out some like what's been happening on the square this week. But I thought for me, like, my favourite moments is when she was with Charlie. I loved her chemistry with Charlie. Charlie Senior, not her. Later on, the Charlie Junior, who married Ronnie in the end. Just the relation, the marriage, like Dot. Everyone knew that Charlie was bad and that he was no good for her, and she knew that he was no good for her. But marriage meant everything to her, and so she couldn't break up, and she just tried her hardest. And I think she loved Charlie to the very end. And she just always wanted, like, she always looked out for him. And every time he came back, he would just come back and take some more money and then leave again. And it was just that dynamic between her and Charlie Cotton right at the beginning that made me endear to Dot straight away. And it was that good base for Dot to then move on to then, like, she could just then continue throughout, her story throughout the square. I mean, she always, she was known by everyone, like everyone on the square, even to this current day EastEnders. Like, she has some connection. She has a connection with Sonia. She has a connection with Martin. She has a connection with Tiff, Whitney. She has a connection with the Butchers. Like, she's somehow, she's like
Dottie,
the nucleus. Yeah. And Dottie, of course. And so, and it's just, and Brian Connolly now, apparently, Rocky.
Well, yes.
And so it does feel like that there's a big gap on the show that's now going missing because of, Dot Cotton no longer being able to, be on the show any longer. But what, did you have a favourite moment? Is there something that sticks out to you about Dot? Anything particular?
I mean, obviously June Brown was amazing at both the tragic and the comic side of Dot. And Dot was one of those characters that sort of had all of it in spades. You could laugh until you cried at Dot and then just cry out of pure sadness for what Dot was going through. Because Dot, I think, was one of EastEnders' most tragic characters in a lot of ways, wasn't she? She had so many different sad storylines. She lost so many people throughout her time on the show. So many family members, so many friends. Obviously her relationship with Ethel was a massive highlight in the character, and then obviously the way that Ethel died was probably still to this day one of the most heartbreaking episodes of EastEnders ever. It's difficult to get through that episode in a lot of ways, but the comedy aspects of her were brilliant as well. Nobody could deliver a comic line like June Brown, and even lines that weren't even that funny, June could make them funny. And Dot was just a funny character, and I think it was very much a sign of the type of character and the era that Dot was made in, was because characters that they were allowed in the earlier days more time to sort of fine tune their performances, and obviously going forward as the filming schedule got more hectic, you kept those tricks online so that those characters and those performances stayed fine tuned. And were always kind of that little bit up and more character filled than maybe some other performances, and all little nuances and little ticks and little trademarks that June had brought to the character. Again, like the fact that she would just light up wherever she was. Did not care where she was. June Brown or Dot would just light up. June Brown often said that there was not a lot of similarities between her and Dot, apart from sort of the spiritualist side. I think kind of ignoring the fact that Dot would have kicked off if she was told not to smoke anywhere as much as June Brown ever did. Nobody made smoking look as glamorous as June Brown did. And anybody that says smoking is dangerous for you, 95 years old, says no, it's not. It's fine. But I loved her way of saying everyone's name fully through. Whenever she was annoyed with anyone, their full name, including surname, would be used. Just a great character, some great times, some great scenes. And like I say, sad day for EastEnders fans. So, obviously, the future for Dot, the Dot's character in terms of how the show is going to deal with this. Do you think that she's going to just be... Sonia will receive a phone call or something? What do you think? How do you think the show's going to handle this?
I really hope that they end up doing a week, because June Brown definitely deserves a week tribute. Very similar to what they did with Mike Reed when he died, when they gave a week's worth of story for Frank's funeral, where Pat said her goodbyes in a thought track over, if it was today, we might have some complaints, but no, it worked really nicely because it, is a one-off. And there was that wonderful scene where Pat and Peggy had the fight about who Frank really loved, was it, and that's where the second "you bitch, you cow" came into play. So I wonder what they could do to kind of like bring up a bit of history for Dot, who they could bring back for that. Could they bring back Lofty? Could they bring back Punk Mary? Because, she helped Punk Mary when they did come back for those episodes with John York a few years back. She thanked Dot for helping her, out when she was, living on the square. There's lots of characters that could return, I think, that could genuinely give a nice, goodbye to the character of Dot Cotton. And I think it would be an absolute shame if they don't do this tribute, because I think with Dot Cotton as a character, she is seen as an original. She's not an original technically,
Yes,
because she wasn't the original cast.
No, but
She was introduced in 85.
2 weeks later or something.
And yeah, it's about a month or two later, as just and only as a side character. She was only meant to be kind of like a walk in, one out, a bit like Ethel, kind of just there. But she just again, as you say, just gained such a reputation, such a love by the audience that she just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then they started, she was always the mother of Nasty Nick, so they brought Nick in, kind of added more story, kind of intertwined together. I think I have to. I just think it would be an absolute shame. I mean, they have to do something to kind of commemorate the character of Dot Cotton. I appreciate that when Barbara Windsor sadly died, there wasn't much done really for the Barbara Windsor, other than kind of there was a few tributes, wasn't there? I believe, but nothing that sticks in my mind. You see what I mean? Nothing too memorable, like Frank's funeral was so memorable.
Yeah, Peggy had already died by that point, of course. So all the Peggy memories were sort of done, by that, and then obviously the show kind of docked its cap, so to speak, for Barbara at the when that happened. Obviously, this is a different set of circumstances because Dot left alive, and and until fairly recently, I think we still have mentions of her. Sonia spoke to her on the phone. She's happily living in Ireland.
She did. Yeah.
As you said, there's plenty of characters on the square that were still kind of Dot was still relevant to. Plenty of people plenty of family, plenty of friends. And plenty of people that could come back for a funeral. I think it would probably be right that Dot would return to London. I think for a funeral service. I think there's potential for them to do something quite sweet and quite lovely. I think they might do. I think we might have some fun stuff. Okay, I'd quite like to see Charlie Jr. again. That'd be nice. Obviously, he's still around. And obviously, you've got all this stuff that's going on with Dottie and Rocky and all that sort of thing at the moment. So whether that will come into play for any of it, obviously that remains to be seen. Unimportant in the grand scheme of things, because at the end of the day, June Brown was an absolute legend. Took EastEnders into places that I don't think the show would have dared to go to if it wasn't for her. It's the Pretty Baby episode, for example, where it's literally just a monologue for Dot. Not many actors, I don't think, on the show would be given that trust. And she had several two-handers with several different characters. She had one with Ethel, Sonia, Dirty Den. She's worked with her character worked with all the legends, worked with all of the great actors, worked with all the great characters. And just so many fond memories. Obviously, it'll be a sad day on set today, I would imagine, because there'll be many people working there who have been there for years, cast and crew, who will be greatly saddened by this news. And the tributes have been pouring in, haven't they? We've had things from Letitia Dean and Woody At. Have we got any tributes?
I mean, yes. There's obviously the cast of EastEnders have given their view, their words toward June Brown. But I want to start off with Stephen Fry, because I thought this was something that a lot of people don't realise what June Brown did. And after I say this, I'd tell you a little story as well. So June Brown, amongst all her other wonderful human qualities and achievements, will be remembered as a tireless and fearless LGBT ally, especially during the darkest days of HIV and AIDS and Section 28. It was a privilege to know her. Now, I know for a fact, an absolute fact, that June Brown would love going to Brighton and mingling along with all the gays in gay nightclubs. She would take off her wig and pass it around, bring her Dot Cotton costume with her. She would do it the campest way she could do it. And I can say I know for a fact that she did that, because it happened, and friends of mine had seen it, and she's just remarkable. She is an absolute, and this is what I mean. A lot of people don't realise how much of an ally she was with the LGBTQ community, and also the fact that she, in one of her early stories, was Colin coming out as gay, and her discovering as Dot, and Dot's conflict, because she loved Colin, she liked Colin Colin as a person, but the fact that he was gay conflicted with her. She felt her religious views, but she came round to it. And then the same with Mark. She found out where Mark had AIDS, and again it frightened her a little bit, because she knew Mark when he was a baby, when he was young, and then she fought for Mark. She looked after him, and it's just Yeah, so June Brown, I think she liked like being able to kind of like grow the community and make people realize that it's not scary to know a gay person. It's absolutely fine, and they can be quite good fun as she proved herself. Have you got any tributes to Reed?
Yeah, I mean she as you say about her going to festivals and all that kind of thing. There's many stories about June Brown going to Glastonbury. Fag in one hand, wellies on her feet, and just dancing around like the best of them. The woman knew how to party. This is the thing. June Brown knew how to have a good time. And there are several kind of stories floating around the ether of times when June Brown has been partying, and cast people talking about how there's often a story told about cast parties, and often June Brown features in them somewhere. So
yeah,
I can only imagine what kind of fun she was to hang around with. One of the writers on Twitter, Mark Catley, I hope I said that right, simply put on Twitter, she hardly ever said the lines you wrote for her, and she smoked wherever she liked, even at a royal occasion, I was told. She made herself a tinfoil BAFTA and was a legend. Rest in peace, June Brown. Again, this is the other side of June as well. Of course, never have told June Brown how to do Dot, because June knew Dot inside out. And if any writer, or if any director, or if any other cast member told her that what she was doing wasn't how she thought that how Dot would have dealt with something, then God rest that person's soul, because June wouldn't have taken it for 5 seconds. She did whatever she liked, June, in a lot of ways. I think there was pieces of the set, I think, that she took home with her because she liked them.
I was about to say that.
In my living room, thanks very much. And just took them. No one else could have got away with that, I don't think, apart from June Brown. One was an icon, a legend, and she'd be greatly missed.
No, you're right. I've heard that story. I think it was actually Natalie Cassidy said that if June Brown liked something that was on set, she would she would just take it. She wouldn't even ask. She would just take it with her. And dress it. People who dress the set would be like, well, where's this gone? We need to dress the set again.
That's where I'm going.
Talking of Colin, as I did earlier, the character of Colin from EastEnders, played by Michael Cashman, he posted something actually quite sweet on Instagram today, and he wrote, "Off you fly, go fly, not away but above. Watch over me as I look for you, as I look for him. You have finally been allowed to breathe out and go. What laughs, what laughter, what seriousness, what a life." And I think that's beautiful. What a lovely way to say about June Brown. He later says that like she was an absolute dear to work with. She was a friend of his. They can remain friends. I mean, he returned as well, didn't he, for that story when Colin wanted to marry. And again, Dot wasn't sure if she wanted to go to a civil partnership, but she ended up getting convinced.
Yes.
It's just. It's such a tribute. It's so nice to see so many people saying such beautiful things about June Brown. And so, I mean, we have focused on EastEnders. As I said, we're an EastEnders podcast, but I mean, there's people who have also been saying that her career on stage was just so wonderful. If you were able to see her on stage, she was just, your eye would just immediately be drawn to her. Just her characteristics and her characterization, and the way she was able to deliver the lines, and you could see that in this, the way in the scene, like Dot Cotton would 9 times out of 10, if she was in a scene, would absolutely steal it, and I think the same would apply for her at theatre as well.
Yeah, she was a classical actress. She had traded the boards long before EastEnders was even a gem of an idea. June Brown was up on the stage doing Shakespeare, doing everything. June Brown knew her craft inside out. And I think a lot of new cast members that kind of came into EastEnders would have been absolutely honoured to work with her. There's a tribute here from Emma Barton, who plays Honey. Working with June was like being part of an acting masterclass of dreams. The way she coloured every line, choreographed her movement to perfection. She knew exactly how she was going to deliver her scenes. I would watch, listen, and be totally captivated by her. She was an inspiration. I am truly blessed to have worked with and laughed with this unbelievably talented lady. Icon, legend, the irreplaceable June Brown. Which I think sums it all up, really, doesn't it? It's a really nice kind of tribute to her. What a huge hole that's going to leave in the sort of EastEnders character sections, because we kind of thought it was unlikely that Dot would return. At the end of the day, June Brown was well into her 90s, so not many people in their 90s are working that sort of schedule. In all fairness, so it was unlikely that she was going to be willing to return full time anyway. But it's nice that the character of Dot sort of, at least she, as far as we're aware, she's happy now. Dot, I mean, living with family in Ireland, away from all the dramas and tribulations of Walford, and just kind of living her best life.
Yes.
You can sort of imagine her, pint of Guinness in one hand, fag in the other, just sort of rocking away to some sort of Irish jig music.
Dot would never drink. Dot would never drink. It's only
sherry,
medicinal purposes, don't forget. Yes, for the medicinal purposes. I wonder if they'll, because we were saying about perhaps that she'd come back to London to be buried. She also mentioned the character of Dot, that she loved Wales when she was younger and she got evacuated. She went to Wales and she always fondly used to discuss and tell people how she wished she was able to stay in Wales or to live in Wales. And I wonder if they'll do, I wonder if they'll film off the set. And they'll actually take some of the cast off to that location in Wales, because I think that would be a beautiful tribute too. I think that'd be really nice if they were able to. I'm sure it would.
It won't happen, but I'm sure it'd be lovely.
No,
they can't even go to court these days, Alex. They're not going to go to Wales, are they?
That's true.
It would be nice.
That's very.
It would be nice.
True.
The thing is about. The thing about Dot is that there is a huge, there is a plethora of things that they could do to sort of pay tribute to her. There's all sorts of locations that she was familiar with, all sorts of characters' history that she became a part of. As was quite usual in the earlier days of EastEnders, there was a lot of sort of outer branches for characters, all touching different characters' histories and stories. So. The one thing that you have got when an opportunity like this arises in terms of a character being laid to rest, so to speak, is the fact that there's a huge amount of opportunity for you to really sort of look to the past and pay tribute to it. So, as I say, as we said, I hope that the show takes that opportunity. It's going to be a while, obviously. It's going to be a fair few months until we start talking about what they might do, what they might or might not do for the Dot's sort of funeral. But at the moment, I think it's just prevalent just to remember the fact that June Brown did all that. She brought it to us, became one of the only soap actors ever to receive a BAFTA nomination. That doesn't happen. Just missed the post from her. Just missed out on it. Of course, there's the classic things of her going on Graham Norton, becoming best friends with Lady Gaga. And as more stories come out about June Brown, that relationship makes a lot of sense, really, doesn't it? You can totally imagine that making sense. I think it does.
It is. It's. I mean, there's so much we can say about June Brown. Just a wonderful, wonderful woman. She did a few things off the show after she left. She did a kind of reality show where she kind of took a detox on this. I think this is Greek Island. That's quite fun to watch if you can dig it out. It was on ITV. I forget what it's called. It's something like Celebrity Detox, something like that. I've just read that obviously this would be, if you're listening to this podcast, it's already aired. So I recommend, I've not seen it, but I would highly recommend it to go to iPlayer and watch it. But there's a special June Brown documentary being shown tonight, straight after EastEnders. So I will watch that with great interest. Marvelous. And would love to commemorate her on the episode. I mean, it feels, I know I go on about it, but it just feels so... I feel so sad that June Brown wasn't able just to reprise that famous role one last time. Just one last time. I wish it could happen.
Yeah. All good characters do come to an end at some point. And hopefully this doesn't sound too crass, but there is on our YouTube channel you can go and relive some of Dot's best moments on the Walford Weekly character profiles. Where there's a whole video dedicated to Dot and her time on the show. So do feel free to check that out if it so inclines you.
Absolutely. I mean, it's said with absolute love that we want to commemorate June Brown through that video, through this podcast. We obviously, our thoughts are out there for her family as well. This must be an incredibly hard time for them. So we wish them all very well as well. Any... really, really sad news. But we will miss you, June Brown. We will miss the beautiful Dot Cotton, absolutely wonderful character. Just watching her on classic episodes is also a big tribute in itself. And I really hope that she'll be in our memories for many, many, many more years to come. Anyway, thank you for listening to this special edition of the podcast. Hope you can join us again very, very soon. From myself, Alex, and for Rob, goodbye.
Give us a tea, lovely, and a glass of water.
How's your back, Doc?
Oh, don't know. Unless you've got 2 hours to spare. Yeah. If you want my headache to turn into a migraine, so just have to soldier on. Do me best.
On your head be it if that rain brings on my fibrositis.
Oh. You couldn't give a drunken sailor with a bowl of rum a good time.
But are you trying to tell me that you and Colin are homosexuals?
Oh, Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as all forgive us, Lord.
I don't drink tea.
Well, coffee then. Oh, and a nice bit of balaclava.
Oh, my good God.
Hello, Ma. Hello, Ma. Hello, Ma.
Excuse me. It's Grandma. Ashley was the only decent thing in your life, and you killed him.
I only want you to be happy.
You're the best friend I ever had.
Marijuana, Doctor. It's drugs.
What? Oh, my giddy aunt. Wifely things. I was never that keen on it.
Will you marry me?
Yeah, I will.
Oh, me vanilla buttercream strawberry regali.
You will go to hell. This is the manageress of the laundrette in Bridge Street, Wolford. Pretty baby. Pretty baby. Oh, my lord. No. Boy's turn in 10 minutes.
I'm gonna kill him.
You can't. I already have. And I shall miss you. And I shall always love you. Because I know you'll love me. Your loving Grandma, Dot.